What is up, guys? It is Orca Flop, and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to do a video that I've actually been motivated to make, and I've been looking forward to do for a while now, as this is my preview for the 2019 24 Hours of Le Mans. By far one of my favorite races of the year, alongside the Daytona 500 and the Indianapolis 500. This is in the top three for me for all-time favorite races, such for myself. And I'm really glad to be making a preview for this race, as it's one of my favorites of the year. So, without further ado, let's go through the entries for this year's 24 Hours of Le Mans. For the LMP1 class, it consists of a very competitive class this year rather than last year, that being the year after that Porsche left LMP1 and they abandoned the 919 hybrid. The main story of the LMP1 class the last 2 years has been Toyota Gazoo Racing, and their two cars consist of two Toyota hybrids that run inline sixes. They'll both be running Michelin tires, and they're full WEC entrants. The number 7 car is driven by Mike Conway, a former IndyCar driver and NASCAR driver for a portion of his career. Kamui Kobayashi, who comes off a 24 Hours of Daytona win, and none more you can get there. And then Jose Maria Lopez, the number 8 Gazoo Racing car. It consists of the same as everyone else, as you can see in the LMP1 entrants, running Michelin tires, and they're all full-time WEC contenders. And this is going to be Fernando Alonso's final year in the 24 Hours Le Mans. Brendan Hartley will be replacing him after this race, I believe. And Alonso will pursue different things. As everyone knows, Alonso is one of the biggest stories. He's a 3-time F1 champion. F1 world champion, got bumped from the Indy 500 by Kyle Kaiser, and is a former F1 driver. This is going to be Alonso's last Le Mans. Let's see what he can do. He's always also driving that car alongside Sebastian Buemi and Kazui Nakajima. Right behind them, at a close second, that will be probably their best competitors this year, that led in the first practice of the morning. For those of you in the U.S., what is the two cars for Rebellion Racing, as they've been by far the underdogs compared to Gazoo Racing this year, seeing as how Toyota is the only LMP1 team giving factory support. The first car is being driven by Neil Janney, Andre Lauder, and Bruno Senna, who is the nephew of legendary F1 driver Ayrton Senna. And the second Rebellion car will be driven by Nathaniel Berthon, Thomas Laurent, and Gustavo Menendez. They'll be those Rebellion cars running a Gibson chassis, or a Gibson engine, I meant to say. And that's the story of them. And then two more private teams here, Bicoles Racing and Dragon Speed. Dragon Speed made a huge step in their business, as they had an entry to the Indy 500 that yours truly right here, Ben Hanley, drove, and he was able to make the field. So Dragon Speed is going into Le Mans this year with a bit of confidence. They'll be running a Gibson engine as well, and that car will be driven alongside with Ben Hanley as Henrik Hedman and Renger van der Zand, who drives the number 10 Konica Minolta Cadillac in IMSA. So, a familiar name there. And then Bicoles Racing, another privateer team that's trying to make a name for themselves in this year's Le Mans, will be driving also a Gibson engine. It's a common theme here. And those drivers behind the wheel will be Tom Dillman, Paolo Roberti, and Oliver Webb. Again, I may not pronounce every name right, and if I don't, just make sure I know. SMP Racing, another privateer team that has got 2 entrants, like Rebellion Racing, and they have some pretty notable drivers in their lineup, as their first car, the number 11, will be driven by former IndyCar driver, you could say a bust as well, Michael Loshin, and former Formula One drivers for McLaren, Stoffel Van Dorn, and they will be also piloting that car with Vitaly Petrov. And then the final entry in the LMP1 class is another SMP Racing car that is going to be driven by Igor Oruchev, Stefan Sarrazin, and former Formula One driver for Williams, Sergei Sorokin. Both of those cars will be powered by a AER engine. As we scroll down here to the LMP2 class, time to get going for the LMP2 cars, as these are all privateer teams. A lot of entries. We got 20 entries. The high class race, and as you can see, we got they're from multiple different series, not just WEC. We have a lot of entries for the LMP2 class, and we start off with a privateer team of high class racing. They will be consisting of an Orica chassis with a Gibson engine. They are going to be running Dunlop tires that are contrary to the Michelin tires. It's up to their choice. They're originally from the European Le Mans Series, and they will be piloted by Dennis Anderson, Matthias Bechet, and Anders Forsbach. So, high-class racing trying to make a name for themselves. United Autosports, that fielded a car, or I think 2 cars actually, maybe. I think it was 2 cars in the LMP2 class for IMSA. They'll be running a Ligier chassis with a Gibson engine. They'll be running the Michelin tires from the Asian Le Mans Series. One notable name here is Felipe Albuquerque, who drives the Mustang Sampling number 5 Cadillac DPI in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. Phil Hansen and Paul DeRista will also be piloting that car. Now we have Panthers Barnthus competition. They'll be running a Ligier chassis, Gibson engine, Dunlop tires are from the European Le Mans Series, and Renee Binder and Julian Connell and Will Stevens will be piloting that car. Alaria Pro Racing with a Orica chassis and a Gibson engine, again running Dunlop, and they're from the European Le Mans Series. That car will be piloted by John Fald, Adria Pizzitola, and David Zollinger. Tons of teams in the LMP2 class. Just wait till we get to the GT cars. G-Drive Racing will consist of a Auroras chassis and a Gibson engine. They'll be running Dunlop tires as well, ELMS. And that car will be piloted by Romain Rusinov, Job van Uitert, and Jean-Eric Verg. I'm sorry if I'm not giving it too much detail into this. I'm just reading off the entries and letting you guys know like what teams are going to be racing in this year's Le Mans. So if I miss anything or you have any questions, just ask me in the comments. I guess I'll just let you know that. Let you know ahead of that. TDS Racing will be running an Orca chassis Gibson engine. Dunlop tires are a full-time WEC entrant. That they will be consisting of Loic Duval, Francois Pedrodro, and then Matteo Vaxaver. So that so many privateer teams. Now another entry, Racing Team Netherlands. This is the first team that will be using a Dallara chassis and a Gibson engine. They'll be running Michelins, contrary to the Dunlops. WEC entrant normally, Fritz van Erd, Guido Vandergaard, and Guido Vandergaard, and Nike de Vries will be piloting that car. Duquesne Engineering will be piloting a Orca chassis with a Gibson engine. Michelin tires are from the European Le Mans Series. And Romain Dumas, he is a driver for the Core Autosport Nissan team in the DPI class for IMSA. That's a notable name you might recognize. Nico Jamin and Pierre Ragus will also be driving that car. Another Dragon Speed entrant, that's a team you may recognize in the LMP2 class. Orca chassis, Gibson engine, Michelin tires, they're a WEC entrant normally. They'll be piloted by Anthony Davidson, Roberto Gonzalez, and Pastor Maldonado. United Autosports has another LMP2 entrant. They'll be, again, Ligier Gibson, Michelin ELMS, contrary to the Asian Le Mans Series. Nigel Moore, Jakub Simichowski, I'm sorry. And then James Winslow will be piloting... Oh, wait, no, that's those are the wrong names. I'm sorry, there's so many. It's been a long day. No, but they'll be piloted by Alex Brundle, Ryan Cullen, and Will Owen, who Will Owen drives for Juncos Racing Cadillac in IMSA, and he's also associated with the IndyCar team as well. The drivers I named off before are actually drivers for the Inter-European competition team, Ligier Chassis, Gibson engine. They'll be running on Michelin tires, and they're from the Asian Le Mans Series. Segratech, Alpine, Matmut, Alpine chassis, and Gibson engine. They'll be running a Michelin tire, their WEC entrance. Nicolas Lapierre, Andre Negrolo, and then Pierre Theriot, I believe, is how you say that name. But those are the drivers for that team. Jackie Chan Racing, my favorite team in the LMP2 class because the name is fucking amazing. Both those cars will be running Orca and Gibson engines. They'll be running Dunlop tires. Their WEC entrants: David Heinmeyer Hansen, Jordan King, who is a Formula 2 driver now and was a former IndyCar driver for Ed Carpenter Racing, will be driving the number 37 Jackie Chan car, along with Ricky Taylor, the son of Wayne Taylor, who currently drives for Acura Team Penske in IMSA. As of right now, the number 7 car. And then number 38, Jackie Chan car will be driven by Gabriel Brewery, Stefan Richelme, and then Ho Pin Tung. And then the third driver for the 37 car was David Heitmeyer Hansen. So yeah, Jackie Chan Racing, let's go. Graf team will be consisted of an Orca and Gibson, Orca chassis, Gibson engine. They'll be running Michelin tires, European Le Mans Series. Vincent Capillere, Jonathan Hershey, and Tristan Gometti will be piloting that car. RLR M Sport Tower Events team, Orca Gibson again. Dunlop tires, European Le Mans Series. And they'll be piloted by John Ferrano, Arjan Manini, and then Norman Nato. Now, God, there's so many teams in LMP2. Setsiar Racing, Virolba course. Dallara chassis again. Dallara isn't really much of a, there's not many Dallara cars. I think there's only 2 in LMP2. Yeah, there's only 2 Dallara cars in LMP2. So Dallara's got not much to work with as far as chassis goes. They'll be running a Gibson engine with Dunlop tires. They're from the ELMS. Andrea Bellici, Roberto Licorde, and Giorgio Sergidorto will be driving for that team. And IDEC Sport has an Orica chassis, Gibson engine, Michelin tires, European Le Mans Series. Paul Loop Chatton, Paul Lagerfe, and Memo Rojas will be driving that car. And I swear, I believe, how many entries did you... Yeah, this is by far the longest entry list. The LMP2 class has the most cars in here. We're down to the last 2. ARC by Salvia. They'll be running a Ligier chassis with a Gibson engine. Dunlop tires are from the Asian Le Mans Series. Henning Enquist, Miro Kornopolka, and then Konstantin Tereshchenko will be driving that car. Libre competition, the final team in this godforsaken class. I'm sorry, it's just so much in the LMP2 class. They'll be running a Ligier chassis with a Gibson engine. Both Michelin tires are from the WEC normally. Nicholas Bolle, Erwin Creed, and Romano Risi will be driving that car. So that's all your entry list for this crazy long LMP2 entry list. So we'll see who we can get it done. I forgot to let you guys know my picks for each class when I'm done with them. For LMP1, I think it's pretty obvious. I think I'm going to go with the number 8 Toyota Gazoo Racing Toyota Hybrid. They're the only team in LMP1 with factory support. They dominated Le Mans last year, and with the experience of Fernando Alonso, I think it'll carry them to a second Le Mans victory in a row. As for LMP2, I have full belief, I kid you not, I'm not trying to sound stupid, I really do believe the number 37 Jackie Chan car will win. They have had speed. It's not like they've been entirely slow. They've shown speed at Le Mans before. They've been competitive. And I think the experience of Ricky Taylor and Jordan King will carry that team very well. And we got 17 entries for my favorite class in at Le Mans this year, the GT cars. GT cars are my favorite thing about sports cars. And we got 17 entries. Most of these teams you'll probably recognize, as well as maybe more of the drivers you'll recognize. 17 entries. Here we go. AF Course, a factory-supported Ferrari team. This GT team will be running the Ferrari 458 GTE. They will be running a Michelin tire. Actually, all of these teams will be running Michelin tires, as well as the GTE M class. It's only the LMP2 class that has Dunlops. So don't need to worry about tires here. They're all running Michelins. AF Course is primarily a WEC team. That will be piloted by Alessandro Pierguidi, who used to run IMSA. Daniel Serra and James Collado. Again, a lot of these names you will recognize. And my boys, Corvette Racing has 2 entries going in, the number 63 and the number 64. They'll be running that beautiful Chevrolet Corvette C7R. They're normally from IMSA. They don't really run WEC all that much, but except for Le Mans. And they got my boys. I recognize all these names. Antonio Garcia, Jan Magnussen, 2 of my favorite drivers of Corvette Racing overall. Mike Rockenfeller, then the number 64 car with Marcel Fassler, Oliver Gavin, and Tommy Milner. Let's go Corvette Racing for a Le Mans victory. I don't think Corvette's won since what? Last time I remember Corvette winning was 06, I believe. I know they won in 06. I can't remember any other year they won, but I know they won in 06. So, and then we have probably the biggest story next to Alonso going into the Le Mans this year. This is going to be Ford's final time racing at Le Mans this year, unless privateer teams will end up buying those Ford GTs. But as of now, there will be no more further factory support from Ford at Le Mans or in sports car racing anymore. So they'll be running some special throwback paints like the 1966 winner, the blue and orange, and then they'll be running a red scheme, and then the regular factory Ford GT scheme. So it'll be a nice send-off for the Ford GTs as they try to get Le Mans for another time and their final time. This is their last attempt at trying to win at Le Mans, as both the UK teams and the USA teams have basically merged. There's not a real difference. But the number 66 Ford GT is going to be driven by Billy Johnson, Stefan Muck, and Olivier Pla, who drives for Mazda in IMSA as well, along with Harry Ticknell here and Jonathan Bomarito in the number 67 Ford GT. They're both Mazda Team Yost drivers in IMSA and the DPI class, and then Andy Prelux will also be driving the number 67. Number 68 Ford GT will be driven by yours truly, IndyCar driver Sebastian Bourdais, Joey Hand, Dirk Muller, who is a former BMW driver, and a Corvette driver, I believe, at one point. I think he drove for Corvette Racing. I don't remember when, but I think he did at one point. But I know he drove for BMW and Rahal Letterman Lanigan in the ALMS. So, and then you got Joey Hand there. And then the number 69 Ford GT, the last Ford GT in the GTE Pro class, will be driven by Ryan Briscoe, former IndyCar driver, 5-time IndyCar champion Scott Dixon, and Richard Westbrook. Will be driving those Ford GTs. Best of luck to Ford, even though I'm a Corvette fan. I wish the Ford well, even though I don't really like them. But since it is their last time at Le Mans, I wish them well. And the second AF Course, I lied, by the way. AF Course has 2 Ferrari cars fielded for Le Mans this year. And the AF Course car, again, the Ferrari 488, will be driven by Sam Bird, Miguel Molina, and David Rigon. That's the second AF Course Ferrari. And then we got BMW, who will be fielding 2 cars, and what could possibly, rumors say, be BMW's last time in Le Mans as well, as they might not be fielding the M8 in the GTE category, at least in WEC anymore. I think IMSA, they'll still do it. But I don't know about WEC. So, and then the number 81 BMW will be driven by Nick Katzberg, Philip Eng, and Martin Tomczyk. The number 82 BMW will be driven by Antonio Felix da Costa, Augusto Farfus, who nearly won the the 6 hour or the 12 hours of Bathurst in the M6. He drove an incredible race, but I think he should have won. But that was interesting. And then Jesse Krohn, who drives the number 24 BMW in IMSA. So those are all the BMW entries, Ford entries, and Corvette entries in the GTE Pro class. And then we go to a very disappointing team recently, Risi Competizione, who had a hard time with funding after they crashed in the 2017 24 Hours Le Mans. It set them back financially, but Risi has come back and want to win Le Mans again. They'll be running the 488 as well. Drivers like Pippo Durrani, who used to drive for the Nissan Tequila Patron team in IMSA, now currently drives for Action Express Cadillac in IMSA. He'll be driving along with Jules Gounon, and that's a funny name to say, and Oliver Jarvis, who also drives for the Mazda team Yost in IMSA. And then a lot of my friends' favorite teams, the Porsches, I say, the Porsches, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to say Porsche. The Porsches of the number 91, 92, 93, and 94 Porsche teams, they'll be running the Porsche 911 RSR, one of the best sounding cars at the track. Shout out to my friend Dave. Porsche will be going for another Le Mans victory, using their motivation from the 2017 24 Hours Le Mans victory. That was their most recent Le Mans victory, and they've been leading in practice early on as well. And I believe that number 67 Ford GT is leading second practice right now as I make this video. But the number 9 and the Porsche teams have got a gold factory paint, and then the other two Porsches have the Brumos throwback paint, which is quite beautiful if you ask me. Throwing back to Brumos, one of the most legendary Porsche teams out there. Number 91 will be driven by Giamara Bruni, Richard Lights, and Frederick Makowicki. The number 92 Porsche will be driven by Michael Christiansen, Kevin Estre, and Lawrence Vanthoor, one of my friend's favorite drivers in IMSA right now. And then number 93 Porsche will be driven by Earl Bamber, Patrick Pilet, and Nick Tandy, all recognizable names in IMSA. And then the final Porsche in GTE Pro, the number 94, will be driven by Matthew Jamanet, Seven Muller, and Dennis Olsen. And finally, last but not least, James Bond himself, you could say, Aston Martin Racing. I wish they would come to IMSA because I think they would make the GTLM class even better than it already is. They'll be running the Aston Martin Vantage, and the number 95 Aston Martin will be driven by Marco Sorensen, Nikki Thim, Darren Turner, and the number 97 Aston Martin will be driven by Jonathan Adam, Alex Lynn, and Maxime Martin. So those are all your entry lists for the GTE Pro class. If you want my pick to win this year's 24 Hours of Le Mans for the GTE Pro class, I'm going to have to go with the number 92 Porsche of Michael Christian, Kevin Estre, and Lawrence Vanthoor. Lawrence Vanthoor used to be an Audi factory driver, and he did really well there, and he currently does really good with Porsche now at IMSA. They've got 2 victories in a row now from Long Beach and Mid-Ohio, and I think he's going to carry that experience, and he's going to bring it to that number 92 Porsche team. And I think Porsche looks really fast this year at Le Mans, and I think that number 92 car is going to win in the GTE Pro class. So I'm very excited to see Porsche at the track trying to go for another Le Mans victory. Last but not least, the GTE AM class. And I swear after this class there's no more. This is it. The Spirit of Race Ferrari 458 team with Francesco Castellucci and Giardo Venezia, and then Thomas Fletcher. Again, these are all privateer teams aside from the GTE Pro Series, which are all factory teams for the most part, except Risi. Risi's the only privateer team in GTE Pro. And then GTE AM is all privateer teams. Team Project 1, the Porsche 911 RSR, once again, they'll be driven by the most controversial driver in sports car racing history, if you ask me, Jörg Bergmeister, Patrick Lindsay and Egidio Perfetti. That is the Team Project 1 Porsche. Car Guy Racing, the best name in GTE, and they'll be piloting the Ferrari 488, Michelin tires, as well as literally every other team in GTE AM as well as GTE Pro. They're from the Asian Le Mans Series. Kai Cozzolino, Takeshi Kimura, and Kome Ledogar will be piloting that. Car Guy Racing for 488. Kessel Racing, and a lot of Ferraris in the GTE AM category. Kessel Racing Ferrari 488 is from the European Le Mans Series. That car will be piloted by Colito Schiavone, Sergio Pianzolia, Andrea Panisi. Clearwater Racing Ferrari 488. Michelin tires, WEC normally. Luis Perez Compact, Matteo Cressoni, and Matt Griffin will be piloting that car. WeatherTech Racing, they're from IMSA as well. That's number 63 car you normally see in IMSA. Whatchamacallit? I'm trying to think. I forgot what I was going to say. I lost track. Cooper McNeil, Robert Smith, and Tony Vidilander. Those would be all recognizable names from IMSA in that entry list. MR Racing Ferrari 488 GTE car, Michelin tires. They're from WC. Oliver Beretta, Eddie Chiva III, and Motaki Ishikawa. Dempsey Proton Racing Porsche will be driven by Julian and Lower, Matt Campbell, and Christian Reed. Proton Competition Porsche will be driven by Vincent Abril, Louis Pratt, and Felipe Prent. I believe those two are related. Kessel Racing Ferrari 488 will be driven by Ray Hall, I'm so stupid. Rahal Frey, Michele Gatling, and Manuela Gosser. I guess I said Rahal because every time I see the RH or RAHEL or just that, I don't know. I don't know why I thought of Rahal. And then JMW Motors, I don't know why they're not a BMW team. And they already got the M and the W, but whatever. They're a Ferrari team because Ferrari needs more entries in this class. That car will be piloted by Rodrigo Baptista, Wai-Lu, and Jeff Siegel. And then Keating Motorsports, who normally is with Mercedes in IMSA. They're the only team at Le Mans this year that's only going to be running Le Mans and no other races this season. Jerron Blikamolen, and Ben Keating. Those are not factory Mercedes drivers. I'm stupid. Those are Mercedes drivers in IMSA in the GTD class. Felipe Fraga will also be piloting that car, and that is a Ford GT, the Wins sponsored Ford GT. Gulf Racing Porsche will be driven by Ben Barker, Thomas Perling, and Michael Wainwright. Dempsey Proton Racing's second entry. Their second entry, Porsche, will be driven by Matteo Cairoli, Satoshi Hoshino, and then Giorgio Roda. TF Sport Aston Martin Vantage will be driven by Charlie Eastwood and Yuan Henke and Sila Yoluk. And the only factory team in the GTE AM class, the Aston Martin Racing Vantage, will be driven by Paul Dallalana, Pedro Lamy, and Mateus Lauda, is he related to Niki Lauda? I think he might be, because that's Austrian. Weird. And then the final entry for Dempsey Proton Racing will consist of the Porsche 911 RSR. That will be a Michelin tire compound. They're from the ELMS. Nicholas Johnson and Tracy Crone will be piloting that Dempsey Proton Racing car, as well as Patrick Long in the Porsche 911 RSR, who is the only driver I recognize there because he's from IMSA, and he drives a GTD Porsche. My pick for the GTM class is pretty simple. Since Aston Martin Racing is the only factory team in this class, I'm going to go with the Aston Martin Racing number 98 Vantage. I'm going to pick them. That's Paul Dallalana, Pedro Lamy, and Mateus Lauda. Aston Martin Racing is the only factory entry, and I think they got the most experience behind the wheels. So those are my GTAM picks. To review my picks again, for this year's 24 Hours Le Mans, I got the number 8 Gazoo Racing LMP1 car, Fernando Alonso, Sebastian Buemi, and Kazuki Najishima. LMP2, I've got the number 37 Jackie Chan DC racing car of David Hindmeter, Jordan King, and Ricky Taylor. And GTE Pro, I've got the number 92 Porsche 911 of Michael Christianen, Kevin Esther, and Lawrence Vanthor. And then GTE AM Aston Martin Racing, the Aston Martin Vantage of Paul Dell'Anna, Pedro Lamy, and Mateus Lauda. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you gained maybe some knowledge out of this. I know I didn't explain much about the teams and such, and I know I could have done a better job. I know, so don't yell at me in the comments, please. It's been a long day. But if you do have any questions, I will definitely try to answer them in the comments below. Let me know your picks for this year's 24 Hours of Le Mans, and I can't wait for this weekend. Make sure to tune in for Le Mans if you're an American viewer. 8 o'clock in the morning Eastern Time is when the race starts for us American viewers this Saturday. And I can't wait to watch this race, and it's going to be fun. So without further ado, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.